Just want to give everybody another round of applause for these amazing talks. So courageous and honest. And I just, while I'm looking through these, I wanted to just, one thing that Donna was talking about, this idea of resilience is something that I think just human beings have kind of started to really understand even from a scientific basis. And there's this concept called grit. I think people have heard of that. And there's a lot of pediatric research right now about grit as a sort of a character aspect of a person's character, because I think about little kids who can resist temptation or stick with things. But I just want to really talk about it just very briefly because we're going to hear from them. But just the amount of grit that's up here today, and the resilience, the courage, the stick-to-itiveness. I know it's not easy. It's very hard and can be very sad. But just this is so inspiring to me, and I hope it is to other people as well. You guys have way more stamina than I do. That's for sure. Okay, so we have some specific questions. Leslie, how do you stay positive?
I fake it. You just got to. I mean, you've got everybody else around you, and I've got a great support network. And, you just keep going. Because the other option's not great.
Right. Do you have any sort of daily practice? Either, sort of a spiritual practice or anything like that?
No. But, I hide it well, too. Everybody around you, you just take it in and, you keep going. I mean, I grew up in a household where unless you went to school unless you were dead or bleeding. So you just keep going.
Grit. Stamina. Okay. Phil, what kinds of things would you record in the binder that you mentioned?
Well, you've got to get the different reports that you get from your doctor. What are the symptoms? What did they say about them? What did they say and how you should treat them? All of those kinds of things. Get copies of the tests, put them in there. You don't know what might be a factor. I mean, that binder, ours got to 2 volumes. It's a lot of information, but try and keep it all together, because when you go to see another new doctor or you get to a different neurologist, they're going to want to know a lot of that background. So it's everything you can think about.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, please do.
I also keep it, and since I can still type, everything of mine is either on an Excel spreadsheet or in Word. When did you have this last MRI? It's bad enough we have so many tests, but how many did you have duplicates that one doctor wanted you to have that you'd already done and you didn't have the record? So I keep every test, every date, every allergy shot, every flu shot, just everything in there. I mean, I want the day where you've got everything on a credit card, because this is ridiculous. But I also walk around with a rolling briefcase of everything that's there, that's been done.
And then you have that question they always ask, which is, when did the symptoms first occur? And you will go, I don't know. But keeping it in the binder really helps.
Right. I think also as people progress through the medical system and they get different kinds of input and they're asked a lot of questions and maybe different kinds of questions, sometimes the retrospective story changes a little bit, things that maybe you didn't notice first off, they become part of the narrative after a certain point. So you kind of have to add things going forward and maybe even going back a little bit too.
Well, it saves you a lot of time when you see a new doctor too. I walk in and they ask you when did it start or what are your symptoms, and if you can just hand them something to read, you've saved them a ton of time that they just scan it into their file and vice versa. I mean, I know, I've graduated to once a year now. He doesn't want to see me, so yeah.
So this is for everybody. Exercise. What forms are best and how intense? Dr. Brown?
As intense as you can make it. We're told for our heart, we should break a sweat. Jackie couldn't do that for quite a while, but we still got her on the treadmill, got her moving. It's the moving that's important of all the different muscles. Even your eye muscles, your swallow muscles, all of those things, we don't think about it. We just do them naturally. They're part of what it gets affected by these diseases. And so you got to exercise them. That may mean you may want to do some singing. You may want to exercise your voice. You want to exercise your eyes, try different things. There's whatever you think you might not want to use in the future, you don't have to exercise.
I think Jeanette wanted to.
Dr. Brown, do you want to answer that?
Go ahead.
I exercise every day. I exercise every day.
What do you do?
Yeah.
So I joined a senior center in which I do a class, and we do a combination of aerobics and non-aerobics, and I do about an hour a day.
And for caregivers, anything that moves your body works. Obviously, it would be great if you had some, cardiovascular work or whatever, but I'll go with a walk around the block once a day. Anything that gets you moving your body and in a way that's other than all the moving you're doing to take care of somebody else. Anything else on top of that, of course, will work fine.
Right. Dr. Brown, do you have swallowing problems?
I don't. I don't yet. I'm sure I will at some point.
And Phil, excuse me.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say,
It's okay.
this is working.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't have any swallowing problems yet, but I'm sure I will. And just exercise as much as possible. And I'm sorry, but I haven't spoken since I was a professor at UCSF.
I know. I'm always amazed. Maybe I'm wrong, but the people that I work with, the professors that I work with, I swear they get up in front of crowds, and I bet their blood pressure doesn't change a single bit. They do it. It's just part of their world. But this is a really difficult thing to do, and I just want to give you a lot of credit.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I used to give hour-long talks, and my blood pressure didn't change at all.
That's what I figure. That's what it looks like. But okay. Phil, did your children agree with advanced care decisions made by your wife?
Yes. We have a good faith. We're a Catholic family. And we had those discussions, brought all the 4 kids together, went through it, and they all agreed. That's what Mom wanted.
Yeah. And did you talk about it, just the 2 of you at first? Did you include everybody? How did that work?
We did it just the 2 of us at first
Uh-huh.
to reach our decisions of what she wanted. And then we brought the family together and had a family meeting and went through it all. They knew what was going on as we went by, went through time. They went with us on some of the visits to the different doctors, to UCLA, UCSF, all over, Mayo Clinic.
Right.
So it was a family decision.
This isn't one of the questions from the audience, but I get this question a lot, which is, when do you decide to tell family members about what's going on? When do you tell other people, friends, coworkers, that sort of thing? Have you?
It's an individual thing.
Yeah.
The question with coworkers and those kinds of things is the question of your job and what you're able to disclose and when you're ready to do that. It's a very personal thing. The main thing is to think about it and remember when you tell people, you're going to get lots of different reactions, most of which will be very positive to you.
Yeah.
But you may have some of the negative ones as well.
Right.
So I would say that I've told everybody, and they're fully aware, as you can tell. And I do think that it is very individual.
Yeah.
One of the things that happens the longer you're a caregiver is that people disappear. The longer you're a caregiver, the more isolated you become. And certain people are going to disappear because of the diagnosis, because it scares them. And other people just because you're not available. You're not available to go do things with them, do whatever. So you really have to cultivate staying connected. And so after you tell, you may have to be the one who does the initial outreach.
I mean, I think it's, like she said, or Phil said, it's very individual. One person of my staff knows exactly what is wrong. The others just think I have a back problem. But then there'll be times during the day where I'm moving extremely slowly, talking slowly, can't type. I'll get up and have one of them type, and it's very hard not to tell them. With the clients, luckily 90% of my clients I speak to on the phone. So again, I just try and time my events. But if somebody walks in and the meds have gone off and the new batch hasn't kicked in yet, it's really hard to hide it. And occasionally somebody will ask me what's wrong, and I just, at this point in time, I mean, I've got a 16-year-old. I have to work for a long time. So I just try and push it off as a back problem and let them worry about that.
And again, I think it's very individual, and it depends on your symptoms.
Right.
So I think I could fake it a fair amount, but because my speech is slower and so on, I can't fake it with my family. And I have a 26-year-old.
In my experience, 26-year-olds don't let you fake anything. So. Any of them. Oh.
The ones I pretty much take now, sorry, thank you. I take Cinemet, and I actually take it every 4 hours, 2 25-100s, and then an extender, Endocap, something. I'd have to look at my medical list that I carry around also. But I also take no-dose because I don't drink coffee. So in order to get moving in the morning, I do a no-dose. I take an antidepressant and heartburn medicine. So those are the major ones. But it's every 4 hours I'm on that Cinemet. And we go up and down a lot. If it doesn't kick in, if I ate, so one of the things one of the doctors told me, and I don't know if it's psychological now, but if you eat, the Cinemet doesn't get into the right pocket somewhere in your system.
Right.
So there'll be times where I'll take it in the morning, and then I'll take the next dosage, and I have to slip another one in because I don't feel it kicking in. So, Cinemet. It's the,
C-I-N-N-A-M-E-T.
yeah, there's a long name, but I always go with the short one. Yeah, that one. But I've gone from higher dosages down to lower dosages. They're trying to cut me back. Okay, so we got the chicken dance again. So now before I could do it really fast, left hand is very slow. So it's not working right now. Okay, and you'd probably see it when I get up to walk too. But we play with the dosages. I've got one of the guys out of UCSF, a Dr. Bledsoe. Ian Bledsoe is one who Gershwin has sent me to just to work meds because I'd gotten on such a high dosage to function. on the Cinemet, and they say it's bad, so he's weaned me off and given me an extender, which I think the endo cap something is an extender, which makes it last a lot longer at a higher dose. So, you know, these guys are always trying to come up and figure out what works for each individual. And again, this works for me, but I know a lot of the people the Cinemet has not worked for at all that have the PSP or CBD. And it didn't in the very beginning at all. I could go off it without a problem and be weeks without it and not have any issues. But now I need it. It's my livelihood.
Okay, and Jeanette and Leslie, as a patient with CBS, CBD, PSP, what is your best hack or tip to function daily?
My husband asked that one. So Jeanette, you get to answer.
I think the best tip is to do it now.
Yeah. No, I agree with everything she put on. If you can do your trips, if you could do anything, get it over with so that you know that you've succeeded on your bucket list of what you'd like to do.
Because it gets really difficult.
Yeah.
And again, they said ask for help. Okay, one of my worst injuries was because I didn't wait for my husband to get home to get the sheep into the canal to get them sheared. 17 stitches.
Those were all the written questions. Are there other questions? Yeah?
I'm sorry, what? Email. Sure. Brown, MDJ, at gmail.com.
It's on the handout, and I think all the slides will be online after the meeting.
Yeah. I had a question about the groups. Phil, you go to the caregiver group, and
Yes.
Jeanette, you started a group. Do you want to say anything about, you've had a couple meetings, Jeanette, is that right? Or-
We've had a couple meetings, and I really enjoy them. And anyone who wants to join in, I was kind of surprised there wasn't one in San Francisco. And that's why I started one.
Do you meet with your caregivers and yourself? Does everyone come to the support group?
No, one of the people brings her caregiver, and otherwise, I don't think it's necessary. And I agree with Robin that you should separate the two.
Really, we have a support group in Seattle, and everyone, both caregivers and the people with the problem, CBD, MSA, and PSP, and they all enjoy the whole thing. We all talk, both caregivers talk, and both people with the affliction talk, and it's wonderful. It's such a positive experience for all of us. It's really nice.
Yeah, I would like that too. Robin lets us sit in another room in the restaurant when we join.
We do too, but you guys are in a different
We're in a
way.
different room.
Yeah.
Right. You know, it works both ways, and I've worked with some Parkinson's support groups where they meet all together and then they break up. And that, I think, can also be helpful, because sometimes, and particularly for caregivers, there's things you want to say and you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. And, you know, and the chance to actually just be able to say things that, you know, without censoring yourself, I think is a really supportive kind of thing. And for care receivers, they also sometimes want to say things and they don't want to hurt their caregiver's feelings. So having that chance to do that, and then you might even decide whether you want to tell the person or not. But having both opportunities, I think, is really important.
Just this meeting alone has been great. We've been here for 2 years now that I know of, and we've met a lot of people and gotten to see different stages that everyone's in. I mean, from my standpoint, I want to know what's coming. I want to know how to prepare for it the best I can, and for, you know, prepare the family. And again, everyone's different, but at least if I see a variety of different people and how they're handling things or what to expect, it really helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate all that. Thank you, Robin.
The Brain Support Network the Brain Support Network Caregiver Group meets here in San Mateo, and it's nine meetings a year, and it's caregivers only. But we break it apart into the MSA, LBD, CBD, and PSP. And that's been very productive. But a lot of the emails then, the email chains that we keep going are for patients as well.
I have a question for the mothers. How do you talk to your children and what's your approach in sort of supporting them around the children with your
I think that's a
Did everybody hear the question? For the mothers on the panel, how do you talk to your children about the illness? How do you support them?
Well, we try and explain it, but I think, for mine, as you can see, it's not as obvious under most circumstances. They'll see it when it's bad sometimes, but even my 23-year-old just thinks everything's fine and keeps going. So I think until things get really bad, it's not going to come to reality.
And I would say that,
How do I talk to my children?
Oh, no.
I do it more factually. I'm an engineer, and so they don't get the soft touch from me.
and as a mother, I actually don't discuss it very much with my son. He's definitely aware of it, and I think that this will make me talk with him more.
Great. Okay, I think we
Oh,
are
wait.
finishing up. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me.
This is kind of a personal question, so I want to address it to the person on the panel. But the issue is, I think the first word is PSP is progressive. And I saw on at least one of the video slides that part of this progression is apparent progression. And what I want to ask is, some of us have spent a lifetime advancing, getting better and better and better. And now all of a sudden, we're going that way. And what I want to ask is the really question is, how do you deal with isolation that can come to you? How do you deal with the larger community that you deal with, and still be a part of it somehow so that your life still has meaning?
I think that's an excellent question. And I would say that I really deal with it with my friends. I still continue to go out to dinner and lunch and all of that, and that's very helpful. But my guess is that they'll tire of it eventually.
I think one of the funny things is they tell you to reduce the stress. And that's a joke. Come on, guys. I know I've learned to try and give up a little, and I'm an A-type personality from New York with a control issue. So it's very hard. Not only do I work full-time, but I manage the soccer team and everything else. And I've had to pull people in to try and help with pieces without, again, saying much, just trying to divvy up responsibilities. Because there are times that half the times I come home and it's 3, 5 o'clock, whatever time I leave the office, and I'm in bed relaxing because I'm dead. So normally, the good thing is my 16-year-old can drive now. So I don't have all of that. But you just figure out how to divide up, ask for help, and use all the resources you've got available.
I think asking for help is very important. And that is what I do with my friends. I ask them to take me to lunch and dinner and all of that. And
And you have to grieve. we run away from grieving in our society, but there's real grief. And, grief is like that 2-year-old that when you're trying to cook dinner is pulling at your leg and wanting attention. So sometimes just allowing yourself to be aware of your grief and feel it and maybe journal about it, write about it, share it with others is the way you learn to live with it.
Anything else?
I would just say that you can continue to live a normal life or live it day by day and do your best.
One of the things I've found with my wife is being out and about on more than one occasion. I have to go to the restroom with her. And this culture, like many cultures, doesn't know how to deal with a man going into a woman's restroom. And I even went to Alpha Bates Hospital and they freaked out because I was going into a woman's restroom. And they had to immediately get a security person to stand by the door to ensure that I wouldn't partake in something while I'm pushing my wife into. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
how
Did
one-
everybody hear that about the male-female bathrooms being out, needing to assist someone of the opposite sex in a bathroom? I don't know if any of the panelists have any comments on that?
If you're traveling a lot at airports, all the airports have family bathrooms nowadays.
The family bathroom model is really, really, I think it's something that's a little more common in
It's
Europe.
coming.
Yeah.
I just find if you announce it, people are amazingly accommodating. Not the perverts hanging outside the ladies' room.
Yeah.
I'm here with my wife, she's disabled, she's very vocal about it. If they're uncomfortable, they'll wait till you're finished. But most of the ladies say, well, if you don't mind, I'm going anyway.
There's somebody over there, Robin.
Just be very vocal about it.
Yeah. Yes.
I would just make a sign, and I'd put it on the door, and I'd bring it with me everywhere I went. And the next thing you know, everybody will have signs, like, communication. Bathroom in use.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, like have a pad of yellow stickies, and if it's a kind of door that you can lock and you know that nobody else is in there and you're in there, I mean, you could put a sticker on the door, will be done in X number of minutes or whatever.
Season an hour.
Yeah. I mean, people are used to encountering the cleaning crews in bathrooms and they have to wait. So I would, be proactive about that. And until we can change I don't know who makes these decisions about who builds bathrooms and how they build them, but if Brain Support Network wants to make that another initiative, I am so behind family bathrooms. They are so great for a lot of different people, so. I guess it's time, I'm sorry, maybe one last question, quick.
One more.
Quick.
One quick one. I've been doing this for 3 or 4 years in the ladies' bathroom. Most of the time, everybody helps me. One other thing to bring is get the little door stoppers that you can get and stick in the damn bathroom door so it doesn't knock you over.
Oh, yeah, they're heavy. So, thank you, everybody, and thank our
Thank you.
panelists.